So hello everyone. I'm just checking whether you can hear me. Yeah, okay, great. Because we also sometimes have a little issues with the, sometimes I stop hearing and or it's freezing, but if that's the case, please let me know. So thanks everyone for joining. For us and for me, this is the first time we're doing this. Be here today. My name is Zdenka. This is Eva, and this is my colleague Bara. And together we created a project that was the origin or the motivation to start this talk. With Bara, we have been working. So I'll do a little introduction, a short one, so you know who we are and what we're working with, and then I'll go through the project, through showing you a video, a short work, so you have an idea what it is and how it looks like, and then sharing with you the questions that we have connected to that work. I'm very curious to hear your experience, thoughts, or questions or ideas that you might have related to that work. So with Barbara, we've been working together now for almost 10 years, mainly in connection to the work for young audiences, creating pieces, and we are coming from the dance background, so we both are dancers and creators. And then I'll leave Eva and Bara to say maybe something short about themselves, so I don't talk for them.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just about to graduate from school here in Prague. I'm studying mostly directing and dramaturgy, and I've been working with a focus on including audiences inside the work, or where the audiences are the core of material of work. And that's how I sort of got connected with work on this piece.
Yeah, and Eva worked with us as a dramaturge or as a dramaturgy advisor.
Yeah, and I think I said everything. So I'm a dancer and I live here in Prague, and this is the first time I do such kind of for me. So if I'm making faces, it's just like, well, okay, this is great. Talk about it. I think it's kind of longer journey we made, because we wanted to do always some piece we did together. We always wanted to move it a little bit more, something far from the normal pieces, or like what we know is happening here. Mm-hmm. I cannot speak for other lands, but here in Czech. So this was like for us maybe like the biggest piece when we really allow everything to happen based on audience and us, like, or other people. But this is like the most biggest interactive piece I would say we made.
Yeah. So this is an interactive work where people are with us on the stage the whole time, and I think what Bara said, that it's special for the context of the Czech dance scene. Maybe for other contexts it might be quite normal, but here it's still a fresh approach, and also sometimes the programmers, they don't know what to do with that. So yeah, and also audiences, how much they are used to it. I would like to show you a short video. The name of the work is The Interplay. And yeah. I would need to share the screen, right?
Yes.
How? I'll try it once more because it doesn't give me the option of sharing the video. Yes, there it goes.
Great.
Can you see it?
We can see your screen.
Yeah, perfect. Let me know if you can also hear the sound later. Yeah. So this was it was like a fast run through the whole piece. The whole thing is set for 60 minutes. As for now, it we are performing it in non-theatrical environments. The question of the space is also one of the questions that we are having. To give you a background of the piece, or what we are advertising it as a moment to get together, to interact and collaborate, and through a playful, using play as a means, and it's intended for families. So our goal was to invite family collectives, meaning parents, children, grandparents, cousins, whoever, friends also. Yeah, we also limited the number of participants, so it's 30 people. We are 4 performers, 2 men and 2 women. Yes. And the 2 performers is Bara and myself, and then we have 2 more, which you saw in there, the 2 males. One of them is more of a musician, so he was also responsible for the musical part. And the 4th member, he has more a drama background, and he also has studied something which is called developmental transformations. Is anyone familiar with this It's actually a therapy. Maybe if
No.
so, maybe type if there's anyone who has heard or is.
At this point, just to interject, I want to draw everyone's attention, if you haven't used Zoom before, to the group chat. So there is a function where you can type a message and it will be delivered to the group. So if you want to interject quickly just to say yes or no or me too, that's interesting, anything at all, pop it in there. I'll keep an eye on that and while our hosts are talking, and if anything comes up, I'll just interject.
Nothing about developmental transformations as far as I can see. I will leave that for later. Yes, I have not heard about it. Yes. Yeah. So I'll give you a short information. I'm Googling now. Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a short introduction into that later, because I think it's also one of our big questions, since that's why also we wanted to speak about this borderline between art and therapy, and what happens and how they form each other, or maybe how they influence each other, maybe how they invade each other in detriment on art of the art. So the art is suffering, and how much the art is then I can go while listening. I can give you also then a website, and also just to tell you that I was Googling it myself also. Fortunately, couldn't be present here today, so I'll speak for him only as far as I know. So this is the context of the play of the thing, and I think it's also important to say that it's a result of a longer collaboration, that it's not that it popped up like this and we woke up one day and said, oh, we'll do a piece where everyone is on the stage. We were going through steps, first with the dance performance for children, where they're on stage with us, sometimes watching, sometimes interacting. Then we did these for adults, where people are on stage with us, interacting as they want and if they want, so they can very well be just audiences and observers, but they are constantly invited to interact with us. And it has been a moment where we pushed the furthest because there is a moment in the piece or in the work which we call open space or free play, and there any participate.
And also we don't have any like made prepare structure like that, like movements, or except the song in the beginning word. It's something what is created and what is the same all the time. And the rest is more about tools, how to be with the people, rather than to have like choreography or text, and there is nothing like this, which is different from other pieces where there was always something settled in dance or in theater. Or
You mean like fixed choreography and fixed movements?
Yeah, that this is really like open score without anything fixed except the song.
Yeah, content-wise is very open. Structure-wise, structure and time-wise is very fixed. So maybe also to give you an idea how it is structured, there is an opening song at the beginning happening outside of the space, and then we enter the space, and there is a first period of the work where people are guided. The four of us, we guide them through series of warm, guiding them through body, through voice, through rhythm, through
communication with the others.
Communication with the others, and that they can create by themselves. So they are proposing movements, ideas, and we follow them. Then there is a moment where we split in 4 groups, and there the idea is to introduce the possibility that anyone can be leader, and we all collaborate with them. And then there is the big chunk which lasts for 20 minutes, where everybody is the creator and everybody is contributing to what's happening. So this is the open space, the free play, as we call it. And the 4 of us are more of facilitators. That was also like, what are we doing there? What is our role? How do we support? How do we hold space? And how do we hand over to the people participating that they are actually the creators of the event and of the content?
We've had a question, just to interrupt slightly, in the group chat that sort of links to what you were just saying about what is the responsibility of the artist. Exactly. And I think that question came in relation to what you were talking about, developmental support. So maybe just if you want to talk a little bit more about what you were just saying there, that seems to be helpful.
Which one you mean, the developmental transformations?
Yeah, I think you were just talking there before you move on to something else about the role of the artist and where your responsibility comes in and when you hand it over and navigating that support and how you help with that. So could you describe that a little more? And oh, sorry, just again, they've followed up with, yes, in terms of being careful not to cross the line into therapy.
This is our big questions also. So you were curious how we are handling it.
Well, I think we are also, to be honest, I feel we are also kind of like disagreement in the group of artists, of 4 of us. So it's like first thing, each one has a little bit different opinion about it, where actually we are now. Each of us has a little bit different experience, and somebody is more really experienced in the therapy. This guy, man, and for him it's clear, like he's kind of he's always like saying, this is gonna be, this is you are crossing some borderline, and I would say females are not on the side that we still think that this is a theater. The therapeutic session would need much more time, and it's still like, it's enough if we are aware of it that we are not doing therapy here. And when we are aware of it, we are doing theater, it can help, but I'm not sure it's enough. So, so I also like have to think the other options. But I think it's very important what we think, like us artists, what we are doing there, and if the goal is we want to stay in the experience, we want to do a play, and even also we see on the parents and kids, we see there is some things happening. That's clear that we can observe it. That there are, but we are not.
Analyzing?
We are not analyzing it, and we don't have time to open it more, I think. So it's still, that's why it's still kind of like hold in the box of game.
Probably artistic experience.
And yeah, this artistic experience is also the question of how we do it, what kind of name or what should be the name of such kind of piece. This is also like big question mark, because first we were like, no, this is performance. We can be really like, we're fighting, this is performance. But now we know it's not performance in the way that we are overlistening and seeing some story or something happening inside them. And also the kids, in the end, some of them used to say, and when will be a theater? You know, so it depends also what parents say then. They say we are going to theater, they are only ready to see something. And some parents told me, yeah, I told them we are going to the theater, but we will play there ourselves. We will do it's so it's some parents are already developed or they have this experience. And so this is for us very important what title we will give to it, what people will read about, what is it, and we still, I think we are not clear about it yet.
Or we have a lot of questions. I'm curious, like from the people who are there with us, like what are your thoughts or experiences about this borderline and what is the responsibility and what to take care of or what to look after. So maybe if we could
open this.
Yeah, share thoughts around this, the responsibility and actually what is the boundary or when do we cross it?
Because I think it's presented all the time in art. So like until the moment you decide as a person who wants to have a treatment, then I think it's the therapy. But when you go to the theater as an audience or as interactive audience, or it is art, but it has a therapeutic effect. I think always, even if you like it or don't like it, or you have the therapy. But,
so if people feel more comfortable typing rather than speaking, that's fine. I'm happy to read out whatever is in the messages. But if anyone feels comfortable enough to speak out, remember you might be muted, but you can respond to that question however is best.
Hi everybody, I'm Grace.
Hey.
I'm currently doing a project where I'm working with older adults who have dementia. Many of them have Alzheimer's, and we've been using applied theater to create moments of joy, but there have been times where we've brought up feelings where people are crying or not terribly unhappy, but I guess remembering happy times from their childhood and are, tearing up, like, and we're working within an institution within the recreational therapy department. We're not therapists. They have a recreational therapy staff, and I have to say I'm not very impressed with what I'm seeing as the professional staff and the services that they're providing. They don't seem to be engaging people as individuals in the same way that we are. But I was just curious if what others think about that. I don't think that we've crossed a line where it's been too triggering or too upsetting, but we've definitely brought up emotions. For the most part, it's been very lighthearted and fun and silly and, a lot of laughter. But here and there have been tears. So that's what I was curious about.
Can I have a question? Is it the regular experience or is it something happening when?
We've been going, it's a once a week project, and we've been going, we've gone 11 times so far, with mostly the same group of people, about 8 people. Some days there are people who don't come, but mostly it's the same group of people, I think I wrote the long question.
Oh, sorry,
Which I do think
muted as I was reading it.
I think it's very connected to the point that Grace brings up, but in a different context. I mean, the short question is, without the training, without the moniker, oh, I'm a therapist, or it's just very difficult to feel empowered to live in that work with your artists, especially when they're like from the whether it's the audience or the general public.
I have a question to those of you who are working professionally in this sort of way. When do you institute your own rules then as to at what point you then become not the person to support that individual? Or how do you recognize at which point you're opening up feelings in response to the artwork versus when do you institute that limit? Is that something you decide on your own? Is that a group decision? How do you recognize that place?
For me, I think it's a ongoing learning experience to recognize that place. One thing that we have talked about as a group is knowing where to go for additional resources. So in this case, you know, working with these older adults, there are professional therapeutic, recreational therapy folks that we can turn to, we can refer to. There are nurses, there are social workers, etc. I have done work with youth, and in those cases, because often you don't know what themes are going to come up, they just come up. So the organization that I've worked with has a lot of resource materials on hand, you know, suicide prevention hotlines, information from different organizations, contact information from a lot of different organizations. So that, you know, we don't feel too alone, you know, in dealing with it. But I'd love to hear more from other people, their experiences.
I'm usually working in school situations, and so we have staff that are on call if something gets too hot to handle, some emotions, children's behavioral issues or things that we can call on. So that's my experience. Doesn't mean that it always works. Sometimes that kicks back to you and there hasn't been a resolution to that problem, and it still falls to the artist to deal with that or to bring it back into a group situation if it's conflict between two actors or two students in the program that brought up something because of an emotional history or past. So, but usually we know when to hand off if it becomes outside our realm of expertise.
Hi, I'm an art therapist, and I also work with people who are affected with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I have come to also, just as Grace has mentioned, when I come and I do art with them and I sit with them, I have noticed that, you know, they're tearing up as well, especially one particular participant, and she used to do art before when she was younger, and obviously that whole art process brings up a lot of emotions, a lot of memories, and I think it's a very fragile and a very thin line between when is it art and when is it therapy, because everyone responds differently. So I think the most important part is just to be really sensitive of how does the person respond right now, and can I hold them? Can I give them that framework of just making them feel comfortable and safe right now? That is what my experience is. I offer expressive arts for youth, and I myself still struggle because sometimes some emotions come up when they express, but I don't want to, it's not a therapy session, so it's just expressive arts for them to get out and be more in touch with the emotions, become self-aware. And there I realize you have to be really sensitive. It's almost like a dance, but it's, just how do I now come in contact with this person if they all of a sudden become emotional and they all of a sudden feel like, it's really affecting them. And then it's really important just to hold, hold that space for them and talk through that. I think if you're not a therapist, it's just becoming really sensitive of what are they going through right now and not being scared to talk about it. A lot also happens in the reflection time. So when we sit and we reflect upon the process and what's happening right now, that's when I notice, okay, I need to be sensitive of how do I hold the group right now and sort of lead them. And if I do see one or two people are, more sensitive right now, then I sort of just gently close the group and the discussion, if it's in the reflection time and the therapy session has closed, and then I still go and talk with them individually and just make sure that they're okay. In that sense, with the older participants, it's not that easy, I find, but I just really go low skill, low level, and try to sort of end off with a more positive note and just hold them in that space. But it's a very thin line. Personally, I feel. Yeah.
I know too. It's Margie from Toronto. When I work a lot with youth in devising theatre, and of course it comes from a place that matters to them, so we often get on subjects that are quite deep, like mental health or something. I allow them the space to speak, but also really try to drive them towards character and story. So to take that emotion and use it in a way of creating outside of themselves. So it's not therapy, because I'm not able to, I'm not a therapist. So allow that, I agree, that space to talk about it and then use that to fuel the art.
I'm curious, for those of you who work with physical dance, what kind of limits do you set on people interacting, touching, hugging, and keeping people's personal space versus, because people have very different senses of what's appropriate, where my personal space ends and yours starts. And so it must be curious, do you set boundaries to start with, or do you just try to keep a handle on how people are feeling and intervene if need be to give somebody the space that they need?
Maybe as you are reflecting upon the question, I had a question that came to me while listening to you, and that was the question, like when I heard the reflecting part. So I thought, like, what is the structure, or what are the elements of those sessions when we work with those contexts that are necessary or important to have? Like, as when I heard reflection, that sounded like something very important to be there. Mm-hmm. And also in relationship to our work, we don't talk so much. Interaction, maybe some verbal interaction. And so I was I was having the question like what to do when we don't have the speech, or when there is no time for like a longer discussion, how to handle these things. Yeah. And maybe in terms of the reflection at the end, which I forgot to mention, there are sheets of paper on which we can draw. So maybe that's the moment where what happened can be processed and everybody on the same level. Sort of we stop to be the performers and the guides, and we just meet as people. So that's the moment, I guess, for us for reflection happening. And I also wonder that from what I heard, it sounds more like a moments of that are recurrent or over longer periods, and maybe more as a closed group.
Yeah.
Or what are the contexts in which those forms or activities you do. And some people might come back or not, but they are coming back. So also different contexts and recurrencies of that's like 3 questions in one. Yeah, so the structure, the elements, the importance of reflection, talking versus non-verbal things. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
If I just quickly come back on that. So I think that's perfect what you do with the reflection afterwards. So the reflection, I sort of mean that everyone sort of sits back, thinks back on what everyone experienced right now, and then sort of talks about the process. That's obviously getting quite sort of therapeutic, say like, oh, this came up, or when we danced, or I think in your case, for example, something would like, if I was dancing with my sister or my mother, or, you know, it reminded me when I was a child. And so these personal emotions come back in the reflection when we sort of think of the process of, in your case, the theater, the dancing, the performance. So I think that's, if you say, yeah, you bring out big sheets of paper and you draw, I think that's perfect as well. I think that's, even though it's not verbal, it brings out that kind of emotion in a different art form. And I think that's very, very powerful as well. So one doesn't always have to talk. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
But I had an interesting insight that we mentioned feelings very little. Or there is very little talk about feelings. How do I feel right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because somehow it goes into the drawings are more describing the story which happened, like the environments when we were in this open game, and usually kids draw the environment or the roles they got. Yeah. They wanted to have these roles. They decide will be this. So it's not completely muted. Is it muted? Muted. We speak, but it's more like we are naming where we are and who we are. But I discovered we don't mention how we feel. This is quite interesting. But I think people, we can see somehow the feelings, because it's so open that who is happy is really happy, and who is like unclear or unsure or worried, we can see it on the body. So maybe we never speak about the feelings. You know.
And I'm sure you also see with the posture and the movements that, you know, how it is brought across then. Yeah.
I was just going to say, in response to what Beth asked about limits, setting limits, the youth groups that I've been involved with, have group agreements, and the group agreements come from the participants. Like, what would make you feel comfortable? What would make you feel uncomfortable? Can we agree on what that is? And it's drawn up as sort of like a contract that's either posted or typed up and handed out to everyone if it's like one group that's going to be working together like over the course of a semester or a year. If it's a drop-in group, the facilitator usually just kind of goes through a quick, like they might play an opening game and then before getting into anything goes over a quick, okay, what are the rules? Boom, boom, boom. You know, nothing super heavy, but you know, just kind of, this is okay, this is not okay, and maybe demonstrating, you know, which always gets a laugh.
I was going to ask about you were saying that you don't express emotions, or you don't talk about your emotions much in the dance that that you do and the open play time. Do you find that people take opposite characteristics when they say I'm this role? So you have little bitty children that say I am the knight and I am the do you find that they take on roles that are different or outside of their normal persona?
Like, I think I saw many times like exchange the roles between parents and kids. Like that the kids like to be leaders. So they have this freedom of to lead the parents and telling them what they now do for them. But also we use a lot of like physical in the sense of lifting or crossing over. So it's like these physical games are also connecting with somebody is tall and somebody is smaller or younger and older. And the kids also like very much switch up these roles that suddenly they carry the parents on the back, or they want to be the strongest one, or they want to lift the mother up. So I think we always play with this, and always there is somebody who wants to do this. Not everybody, but I would say it's kind of the experience because we didn't play it yet so many times, how many? 6 times?
Yes, we have 6 experiences with that.
Still, I think, fresh, yeah. And last time, like, which was quite strong, and I think it's connecting to these borders, was that we had a group of boys, like 3 boys, and when this was opening the leader game in small groups, and when they became the leaders, they started to shoot and kill everybody, and it became quite tough. And for the man who is one of us, our colleague, for a while the space, and we actually were kind of like, we don't know what we should do in this case, because it became already quite dangerous and also kind of not or you know, like what in the free game we should allow, but where is the border what we can allow, or how to transform it into something.
Sorry to interrupt. Could I ask you to just repeat that slightly closer to the microphone? I think some people are having issues with connectivity.
Part of
that last time we had a problem, like, it's connecting to the borders, how far we can go in this like opening game and how big what the freedom can bring. And that we had last time experience with 3 boys, they were like 8, 9 years. And in this, in the moment when they could lead the small group, they start to kill everybody. They wanted to shoot and kill, and they became quite like violent.
Yeah.
So it became the issue what to do with it, how to, because in our rules, it was very open, and it was like saying, you can lead us and do what you want. Got this freedom, but how to react to it, how to transform it, or what to do with this kind of energy, we don't know yet. So what happened was that they left the space for a while. They start to drink water, and then they come back with our colleague who was the lead inside this small group. But it became the question of the border also, like of the freedom, I think. I think it's also the issue of how to hold it, how much we have to hold it or not.
Yeah, maybe what is your experience when those violent situations may arise, how to handle them or how to channel these moments?
I have no idea if this would work, but the first thing that occurred to me is if you kill everyone, you have no one left to lead. So everybody's just lying on the ground and they're still, and you are a leader of no one now. Surprise.
Absolutely.
That's a good one.
The other tactic I use is once I also allow them to use their guns or whatever method first, and then I say, okay, that was really interesting. We've seen that. What else can we see?
Mm.
So it's a form of being more creative or imaginative.
I mean, because until now we've sort of talked about sort of the therapeutic effect that these performances can have, which I think is very interesting. But I think with this we actually took it a little bit further and actually almost appropriating a therapy technique to create this performance. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And
Yeah, this actually brings me to the thoughts that we had around this creation, that how much the art is actually informing the therapy and how much therapy is informing the art, because this developmental transformation. So to give you a short, because we are also approaching this 1 hour of the time set for the conference. So it was developed by David Johnson on Grotowski theater. So it's informed by Grotowski theater, and then he used a perspective of cognitive development, psychoanalysis, and as well authentic movement and dance therapies. So I would say that there is a lot of input from actually art forms, and there are four elements or 4 components which are essential to that approach, that it's embodied. So the whole body is engaged, the whole sensory system. The basic ideas is transformation. Everything is unstable, and we are looking for stability. It's based on encounter, that the therapist and the client are in a play space, what they call play space, and everything is happening through the interaction and through the play. Yeah, so this is sort of the basic setting. Therapeutic session, it can be either individual or it can be done as a group thing. So the whole group is playing and the therapist is very equal to everyone, interacting and reacting. And there is a space which is called like a rug, like an island where they can go and make observations on what's happening, or allowing insights for the client, which is sort of outside of that play space. And this idea of the play space was probably something that has come from this developmental therapy. But at the same time, I would say that when we go into open improvisation or any sort of improvisation, it's exactly the same situation.
We've had a request. Could you type some of those references into the chat, just
Yes.
so that people have them? Thank
Yes.
you. While you're doing that, we are approaching the end of the session, which I think you'll agree has gone pretty quickly, actually. So, with everyone's permission, what I usually offer to do after a think tank is start an email chain with everyone involved. Again, if you don't, I'll leave it about an hour or so before I start that chain to give anyone who doesn't want to be included time to let me know. But with your permission, I'll get that started so that any references can go out to the group that way. Also, if you're having your lunch tomorrow and think of something you would like to ask the group, you still have that opportunity. Similarly, if you want to have follow-up conference calls or need a bit of advice quickly about how to do a reflection period at the end of something, you have a little network of people you can go to. So if maybe this would be a good time, Zdenka, to sort of wrap up what you're thinking. Anyone can offer their last pieces of input, but you will have that chance through email chain to stay connected.
Yes, so I have given you a link to the to this therapy, and I was trying also to copy other parts of the text that I will also put, so of what that one is, and it seems not to be working. Okay, maybe I'll send it. I can send you the whole document that actually I prepared for this think tank, with the links and references, and also information about our work and the questions we had, because yeah, we were curious about what are actually the skills that we would need to have to do that work, and also a big question about the spaces, and also a very important question that I haven't mentioned until now about the payment. Actually, that was Bara's huge question about those activities. Can you say more about that?
Well, yeah, we discussed like if people should pay for it or if it's something, because one of the idea was like, what about to say, let's go for Interplay, which is the name of the piece. Like instead of let's go for coffee, you know, so it's like, let's go for Interplay, that it would be something people know, this is it's in the same area, in the same building, in this, and every Sunday.
Yeah, it becomes an open.
The Interplay. So it was kind of like idea that, and if it is like this, if people should pay for it or not, right? Because it's something still between, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, performance, workshop, maybe social event, encounter.
Yeah, community. Yeah.
If there are any thoughts around that one, that sounds also like a closing question.
Okay, so how about that as something to reflect on then? If we're leaving you with that thought and you have the opportunity to follow up with each other, then that's a good catalyst for thought to end on, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I recognise some of you may have to rush off for other things. So we will wrap up now, but I just want to say a big thank you to our hosts and also to our participants. You never know how these things are going to go, and we so appreciate you taking the time to share and to listen and to interject and share your experiences. I can sort of tell from the accents that we have a couple of varieties of countries and backgrounds, and I know now art forms. So I'm really pleased to be able to have a space where we're all interacting and talking. A couple of reminders: if you don't want to have your name or your voice included, let me know. And similarly, if you don't want included in the email chain, there's no pressure, let me know. Other than that, we will move ahead as described. We host one of these a month, like I said at the beginning. If you have a thought for your own session you would like to host, please do let me know. If you have a colleague who you think is particularly good at sharing and encouraging others to do the same, again, let me know. We are looking particularly outside of the UK and the US at the moment, and the language does not have to be English. So far it's happened that the first 3 have been. In the summer we have some Latin American sessions, which I think will be in Spanish. So again, and I think in Korea we may have one in Korean too. So it is open to whoever and however you think this platform could be useful going forward. Please let me know if you have any thoughts. If you have any parting words. I see there's a couple of comments. Let me have a look. Thank you, very useful, interesting. It's a good idea for parents to pay for. Thank you so much for hosting the event. Important and wonderful to connect with others from around the world. So thank you so much to everyone. Unless there are any closing comments. No? Okay. I think we'll finish it here and move this over to an email chain. So thank you so much to our hosts. Thank you to our participants.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.